Um, well, I mean, in one sense, Americans are facing reality already, of course. I mean, we deal with these issues every day. People struggle to get by, whether it's energy issues, other issues. I mean, they face reality that way. I suppose, though, on the other hand, I mean, a lot of people really blow off, I suppose, or do not pay attention to some of the issues that I think are facing us in the future in terms of peak oil and climate change. So I don't know if I want to say they're not facing reality, but a lot of people there are certainly do not have, I think, the level of awareness that is required. But what's required to get their attention, to focus their attention on some of the peak oil and the climate change issues that I think are coming our way? I've been hopeful in the last couple of years. Various things, I think caught people's attention. I was always afraid, is it going to take a crisis? And to some extent, it did take a crisis a little bit with Katrina. And it took another crisis with, the economic, the collapse that happened in fall of 2008. You had Al Gore with his movie, The Inconvenient Truth, which I think woke people up and started to, draw some attention to the climate change issues. And I took those as hopeful signs. However, I have been recently discouraged a little bit because I have seen what I regard as a retrenchment from those interests. And I don't know if it's because of the problems that people face in their own individual lives or because of the media barrage that they get. So how do you deal with that? What will it take to get people to focus their attention? I think it would be a couple of things. One is, I think we need a sustained information campaign. So the Inconvenient Truth was great, but it was a one-time shot. We need to find some way to continue to get that message out there. And at this point, the message is, there are continual messages people are getting out there, but it's still not really, I don't want to say mainstream. The articles show up in the mainstream, but still it's being countered by too much information. So secondly is, somehow the negative information, the disinformation, somehow needs to be curtailed, countered, slowed down, discredited. I think people are just given too much, of the disinformation, and somehow we have to find a way to get around that and to counter that in a sustained manner. The third is, I still think to some extent it may take some kind of a crisis, but even there, given the recent experiences, I think that a crisis that is short-lived is not really sufficient. I think, unfortunately, I think people are probably going to have to face some kind of a prolonged, I don't know if I'd say crisis, but some kind of a real prolonged crunch. Something that doesn't end in a couple of months where things kind of go back to normal. Oil prices drop back to levels they can afford. We're going to have to see something that I think is a little bit more sustained. So again, I guess sustained is kind of the word there. We need sustained information campaign, and we need some kind of a sustained tightening or crunch where people really get the point that this is not something that is going to go back to normal.